We are starting here in a sacred way because our earth deserves our respect.
We recognize that Ground Zero describes the center point of a detonation of a nuclear bomb. But for us, it is a metaphor for the power of love. Our actions cause a chain reaction also that emanates and spreads out. And when we focus on love, compassion, kindness, peaceful understanding, and social justice, this affects the world in ways that we do not control, but that are as real as those bombs. I would like Ty Nolan to speak. Ty has long used legends and ceremony in his work in mental health and education, and is trained as a traditional Native American storyteller. Can we give a warm welcome to Ty Nolan?
We were told that there were things like metal boxes that would carry us across the sky, that we had weapons that could create great destruction. But there were a group of people who worried that this was the wrong thing to do, that these were things that were called two-hearted. That meant that you knew the path of the heart, but you deliberately chose not to walk that path. And when you walk that other path, the two-hearted path, then it's a situation where you forget your connection to the earth. You take more than you give. You don't understand how circles work in terms of returning things. You think only in terms of taking from the earth instead of giving back. And for that reason, a group of people left from that community to come here where we are now, where they thought they could live their lives in a better way. But one of the two-hearted people came. And some of the people said, we must kill this person because we came to this world for it to be pure and right. And the elder said, no, the very fact you're considering murdering someone in cold blood means evil has already entered this world too. And we must be vigilant against it. Here in the Pacific Northwest, in the land that you're on right now, the indigenous people of the Duwamish community, there are stories of the Salish Sea that say similar things. The idea that as Native people we forgot our harmony. We forgot our responsibilities to each other and to the earth, to the animal people. And so we suffered from that. And there's a song I'm going to close by singing that's part of that traditional Salish song and traditional story. The words of the song mean the Creator is coming soon, our hearts will be different. Because it was a pledge that we would try to be better people. And that's why we're gathered here today, to remember to be better people, to strive for harmony, to respect one another.
Oh, yo, we, oh, ho. Oh, yo, we, oh, ho. Oh, yo, we, oh, ho. Oh, yo, oh, hey, oh, oh, hey, oh, oh, yo, we, oh, oh, hey, oh. Chako ni watukui bas mahasi. Chako ni watukui bas mahasi. Kanaway tam tam hoy hoy asa.
Awesome. Let us try to be better people.
MC now, Michael Ramos. Michael currently is the executive director of the Church Council of Greater Seattle.
We are all victims and we're all perpetrators of the consumerism. I consume, therefore I am. That's fed by corporate greed and leads to what is called a commodification of life that seeks to take away what is precious for us. Freedom, dignity, hopes and dreams in our very humanity. We need a regime that calls forth human rights, recognizing that the cry of the earth is the cry of the poor, that social rights that fight discrimination and hatred and promote equity and justice are human rights, that the proliferation of nuclear weapons can only be dismantled by resistance to those weapons, and that in standing on the shoulders of nuclear activists that we are standing for human rights.
My name's Benjamin Moore. I'm here today from Ground Zero Center for Nonviolent Action, and I want to ask you a few questions. First of all, what's your name?
My name is Vandana Whitney, and I'm with 350 Seattle. If you are still believing that in order to get any funding for progressive causes or for climate solutions, if you're still waiting for more taxes money, you might just be waiting indefinitely. And what we're saying is funding is not dependent on taxes.
I'm Lily Adams. Our senators in Washington state have been really inactive on this issue so far. They haven't signed on to bills that exist to reduce the risks of nuclear weapons. They've been really silent, and it's because they're not hearing from us enough. And we're driven by the understanding that there is no cure for a nuclear detonation. Prevention is the only option. Right now, the danger of nuclear war is growing. The U.S. government is planning to spend $1.7 trillion over the next 30 years to rebuild our nuclear weapons arsenal. $1.7 trillion. That equals $4.6 million every single hour. If Washington state were a country, we would be the third largest nuclear weapons country in the world. And make no mistake, that makes us a target. Just west of Spokane is the Midnight Mine, located on the Spokane Tribe of Indians Reservation, where uranium was mined for decades to produce nuclear weapons. It is now a Superfund site that has polluted the land and poisoned the people living on the reservation. As has happened so many times in our history, Indigenous people have been exploited and sacrificed by the U.S. government for military might. So we need you to join us in holding them accountable. We need more people involved and active in this fight. In this political climate, it's easy to lose hope and it's easy to feel alone. But I have found that one of the best ways to feel hopeful is to act, and to act in a community.
Yes, the lowly banjo. That Daniel was a Bible hero. He was a prophet, brave and true. He was a preacher too. Let me hear you now. Oh, you gotta walk that lonesome valley. You gotta walk by yourself. What we do, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on you. God's counting on you. Big chorus. Hope and we'll all pull through. Hope and we'll all pull through. Hope and we'll all pull through. Me and you. Hope and we'll.
When you analyze the impact of militarism on the environment, you note that the damage and destruction doesn't occur just when the war is going on, but also in preparation for the war and then after the war.
To give you good news of a wonderful development for Mother Earth, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has announced that he will declare a moratorium on nuclear testing and that he will no longer test ballistic missiles. And this is huge. This just happened last night. So let's celebrate this wonderful victory for Mother Earth.
Thank you, Ground Zero, for also helping us connect the dots between the threat of nuclear war, the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and their first strike capabilities, and climate change and environmental degradation. Next up is Vandana Whitney.
I have come to believe that one of the most radical acts that we can do now is to actually understand how our monetary system works. That can help us understand the policy options that are available to us now, and that point a way out of this austerity mentality that we are being told we must accept. So a sovereign government like the United States that issues its own currency and whose debts are in its own currency is not going broke. A federal deficit is just evidence that the government has spent more dollars into the economy than it has taken back out in taxes.
Let's welcome the SPC Action Ensemble.
We hope you will be compelled to do whatever you can to protest the existence and the use of nuclear weapons. A short distance from this venue, a mere 18 miles away, the nuclear bombs all start there, just beneath our clouds of gray. I was accused of a crime. To bring some attention to the nuclear threat, I stepped over the line.
The Ground Zero Center for Nonviolent Action held a rally at Westlake Mall in Seattle, organized by enthusiastic advocates for social justice. There could not have been a more opportune time in history as this week, when 7 Plowshare protesters had been arrested at the Kings Bay, Georgia Trident base on April 5th. They are Catholic workers from across the country and included the granddaughter of Dorothy Day, who was a co-founder of the Catholic Workers, who remained in prison on Earth Day 2018. One of them being Father Steve Kelly, who was one of the younger Disarm Now Plowshares protesters as they cut through the 2 chain-link fences at Bangor Trident Base in November 2009. 2 of them were octogenarians, and all of them served time in federal prison following a year and a half of legal battles. Steve Kelly's very high-risk decision this past week means he now faces extreme repercussions. Sister Megan Rice, nearly 8 years ago, made a similar decision by entering the Oak Ridge, Tennessee nuclear facility on July 2012. And after her long legal battle, she was convicted of sabotage for her peace-inspired actions and remains in jail today. Our solidarity is critical. I was present in large part because of my admiration of Father William Bixel, Bix, who was one of the Disarm Now Plowshares. They chose their name in 2009, realizing that, like the Occupy movement, they could demonstrate how their simple protest needed to be amped up from rallies to actions of resistance in order to challenge the corrupt political and legal institutions of our military, industrial, mass media, corporate, and economic culture.
We took food and medicine into Nicaragua, food and medicine into Baghdad and Basra, other things.
Spend our time and energy on things that actually help people instead of facilitating the military-industrial complex.
The protesters met a lot of support, but they were frustrated that their numbers were so low. They did meet others, like the group Justice for Palestinians, Stop Israeli War Crimes in Gaza.
This is the connection that I see. So whether it's the local government here or the federal government or internationally, they're all benefiting. Whether it's the World Trade Bank, it's all connected to the same corrupt system. If you're fighting for rights here, it's the same as fighting for rights anywhere there's oppression in the world, not just in the U.S.
And the reason this crowd is so small is that everybody thinks that nuclear weapons is one issue, and climate change is one issue, and the Palestinian cause is one issue, and economic escalating inequality is one issue, and poverty and homelessness are separate issues, but they're not. They're all one issue. All manifestations of this big problem, which is the, I don't want to call it anything particular, but I think I want to call it the U.S. empire. Because if we were all helping each other for each other's causes, then we would have the revolution.
And I want to say that the current uprising, and it is an uprising of the youth against this arming people with assault weapons, against the NRA, which profits enormously.
Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. Lift up your eyes.